Definition of Aitab. Al-Ijarah Tuma Al-Bai Aitab is a Sharia-compliant car loan that operates on the basis of leasing, ijarah, and selling al-Bai. The renter is required to pay the agreed rental amount during the term of the lease agreement. A sale agreement will be signed after the lease expired, whereupon the customer will become the new owner of the asset. Ijarah concept. Ijarah is a concept used in Islamic trade. Ijarah refers to a legal agreement in which one party gives another party the right to use its property for a set period of time in exchange for amount of the money. To maintain a competitive edge in the growth of the Islamic banking and finance, product innovation is essential, but to meet the needs of the today businesses and their increasingly sophisticated consumer, more attention needs to be given to the expanding the range of available products and services, as well as improving the overall efficiency used to deliver it.
Modus of operandi for Aitab. Step 1. Bank purchase the asset from the seller based on the asset detail provided by the customer. Step 2. The bank lease the asset, transfer possession and right of specified use to the leaser. Bank enter into an ijarah contract whereby the object, benefit, rental and period are clearly defined. Step 3. The seller delivers the asset to the customer based on the agreed terms and conditions and submit a proof of delivery with customer acceptance to the bank. Step 4. The customer pays agreed rental based on the agreed payment plan and period.
Regarding to the ownership issue, the owner or the bank would technically be responsible for the asset risk, obligation and liabilities. The bank will make every effort to remain clear of ownership transfer methods as much as possible. The owner of the asset supposedly remains liable for basic maintenance, even though this term is often difficult to differentiate. Or in other words, the bank as the owner is responsible for the risks, duties and debts related to the asset. Banks try to avoid directly transfer ownership whenever they can. Even though it's sometimes hard to tell, the original owner is still on the hook of basic upkeep of the assets. Lessor and lessee. Due to lack of formal ownership rights, the lessee may not be able to transfer or alter the asset without lessor's approval. For lessees, this lack of ownership may provide practical difficulties, particularly if they need flexibility in how they use or manage the assets. Because they don't formally own the asset, the person leasing it might need permission from the owner to change it or give it to someone else. This can be a problem for them if they want to use or control the asset in different ways. Next is transfer ownership. Seamless transfer of ownership can be influenced by a number of factors, including the assets, condition, the way the purchase price was calculated, and the documents used to transfer ownership. If ownership is not correctly transferred, the lessee may not be able to sell the asset or use it as security in the future. Or in other words, many factors such as the condition of the asset, how its price was determined, and the paperwork used can affect how easily ownership is transferred. If ownership isn't transferred correctly, the person leasing the asset might not be able to sell it or use it as collateral in the future. The provision of Aitab contract should be interpreted or enforced ownership issue may result. It could be necessary to take legal action to settle conflicts which could incur extra expenses and cause delays for all parties. Lastly, based on the Hire Purchase Act 1967, assumed as a customer as a lessor in the contract. It raised this issue in Mamala contract due to terms and condition of fiqh. Due to this statement, it leads to the second issue regarding responsibility of the goods car.
Issue on bank responsibility. The actual meaning of ijarah, which states that the person in charge must pay the insurance premium, is completely different from this practice. Takaful insurance is a financial agreement that transfers the risk of loss from an individual or entity to an insurance company. According to the Islamic concept of ijarah, the lessor, which is bank, is obligated to pay for the vehicle's insurance, which are also known as takaful in Islamic law, as the lessor was purportedly the asset's owner. Aitab Finance is now implemented in Malaysia. The client is ultimately in charge of maintenance, with the bank serving only as a financial. In actuality, the hirer carries the insurance or takaful just like when buying a car. For instance, if someone is involved in an accident and their car is completely damaged, they cannot claim that the loss from the bank as stated in the bank's contract. As specified in the Aitab agreement, the customer is responsible for paying any expenses related to takaful or insurance coverage for the car. In the second scenario, if the customer choose conventional insurance coverage but the application is under Aitab financing, the customer is responsible for paying the entire insurance premium.
In Aitab, the maintenance responsibility is borne entirely by the customer, while the bank only acts as a financier. Thus will not bear any responsibility for the asset leased and to be purchased by the customer. Bank argue that the main objective of their customer to engage in hire purchase is to own an asset, particularly a motor vehicle, not simply to rent it for a certain period of time. In fact, the customer is recognized in the title document as the rightful owner of the asset. The bank only acts as the beneficial owner who has a claim of ownership over the asset until full payment has been made. It is reasonable to require the customer to maintain the asset as it is he who use it. However, the customer has the right to sue the bank if the asset is damaged, and if the customer repair the damaged asset, he has the right to claim the repair cost from the bank.
Classical scholar, based on Abu Zahra, he said that ownership is the basis of any rights and responsibilities in an asset. The determination of ownership must be clear in the context of Aitab practice. Abu Zahra, 1962. The term of ownership in fiqh term is known as milkiyah. It is derived from the root word of al-milk, which etymologically means the authority to control something. It also means something owned, property. Muhammad Abu Zahra defines al-milk as the exclusivity of a person over an object according to the Sharia, which give him the right to act independently and to process the use of its benefit as long as no legal impediment exists from the Sharia perspective. When a person owns a property that is legal according to the Sharia, the person is free to act on his property such as to sell or pledge it, whether by himself or through another person like agent. Abu Zahra, 1962.
Modern scholar Eldin and Abdullah 2007 state that this move does not absolve the bank of any liability regarding the asset that is being leased and will be purchased by the customer. Eldin and Abdullah 2007. In certain instances, maintenance obligation must be shared by both parties. When a residence is leased, for instance, the owner is accountable for any maintenance that is not brought on by the tenant's carelessness. The leasee should oversee maintenance if he is the one who utilized the leased asset improperly. Moreover, the basic principle states that the owner is accountable for an asset's takaful or insurance coverage. The hire may be exposed to risk and obligation. Eldin and Abdullah 2007.
While using murabaha instead of Aitab, it is because murabaha is suitable for our issue, ownership and bank responsibility. Critical review, meaning of murabaha purchases order. Murabaha purchases order whereby Islamic bank murabaha seller purchases an asset of commodity upon the request of a customer purchases order from a third party seller in order to resell it to that the customer on the different payment basis on the spot. Apply murabaha purchases order to the issue. In murabaha purchases order, the bank buys goods on the behalf on the customer and then sells them to the customer at the higher price, which including the profit margin. Ownership transfer directly to the customer during the delivery of the goods, providing the charity and the certainty.
Critical review for bank responsibility. Since the customer become the owner of the goods in a murabaha purchase order, they have the flexibility to choose their insurance provider and tailor insurance coverage according to their needs and preferences. This flexibility can be beneficial for customers who want to ensure adequate protection for the purchased goods. The customer also assumes the associated risk, including the risk of loss or damage. Murabaha contract typically outline the rights and responsibility of each party, including insurance obligations in clear terms.
For summary, Al-Ijarah Summa Al-Bai Aitab is Islamic vehicle financing that operates based on the principle of leasing and selling. It is also suitable for non-Muslim customers, and it is a rental agreement where the lessees acquire the legal title after the purchase of the assets and the rental periods end. Aitab is a legal agreement in Islamic commerce where a bank leases an asset to a lessee for a fixed rental amount, and the lessee then enters into a second contract to purchase the product. To remain competitive in the Islamic banking and finance industry, product innovation is essential, especially in a market like Malaysia where competition between Islamic product and conventional instruments is fierce. In the meantime, there are also some issues related to Aitab that occur, such as ownership issue, bank responsibilities and maintenance. In the banking system, it seems that Aitab faces the same problem in adapting to the conventional system that has existed for a long time. Some conventional practice conflict with Sharia principles. Islamic bankers and Islamic scholars have tried to resolve several fundamental and operational issues to make Islamic hire purchase operation more viable and acceptable to Sharia. In conclusion, Aitab has both the strengths and limitations discussed above. However, it is expected to become one of the most sought after Islamic products in the future, as customers are increasingly interested in goods that benefit them. To ensure its implementation is in line with Sharia compliance, Islamic experts should provide appropriate training to employees of financial institutions to improve their knowledge and understanding of the product. Ownership is important in Aitab, and it should be clear in the context of practice. A financial institution must own the asset before leasing it, as it establishes the rights and responsibilities of the parties involved in the hire purchase contract. In addition, the lessee is responsible for the cost of insurance, and it is advisable to choose a takaful plan over conventional insurance. If conventional insurance is selected for an Aitab financial application, the customer is responsible for the entire insurance premium. In an Aitab contract, the owner leases the property to the lessee for a specific period, with the lessee responsible for maintenance and the owner handling major damage and basic liability. Murabahah purchase order are considered a suitable substitute for Aitab in car financing. It is a typical Islamic financial structure where the lender buys an asset and sells it to the borrower at a higher price, allowing the borrower to repay the cost over time. Compared to Aitab, Murabahah is more compliant with Islamic principles and offers a transparent and mutually beneficial financing solution for individual and the business. Overall, Aitab Car-Financing, through its Murabahah structure, combines financial stability with adherence to Islamic principles, making it beneficial option for those looking for a Sharia compliant and mutually beneficial car financing solution.